company name. C.C. Ford did this home, and Carey did both this one and this one here. These are all names you're going to be hearing as we go through that talk today. And we also talked about the 1954 parade, which represented truly the beginning of Harvey Park. The first homes in Harvey Park were built along Jewel Avenue on the north side of the neighborhood, and they were built by the likes of Carey, who introduced his Carey Holiday Homes, and then also K.C. Ensor, who built these, like this one, this one, this one, and this one, had all of them in the parade. And these are his version of bringing value to the mid-century home buyer by providing these all-brick ranch homes and tri-levels that were actually what are called double masonry construction. They're made out of concrete block with brick veneer around it. So if there's ever a tornado in Harvey Park, an Ensor home is what you're going to want to run to because these houses aren't going anywhere. And then also we see the first brick or partially brick Hutchison home here as well. So today we're going to talk about the 1955 parade and onward. 1955 was a boom in both Denver and Harvey Park. And whereas the 1954 parade had about 55 homes in the parade, which is a lot, if you can imagine. I don't know if you've been to a recent parade, but they don't have anywhere near 55 homes in the parade. The 1955 parade had 85 homes in it. I also just want to direct you real quick to my Harvey Park map. I didn't have this address last time, so I'm giving it to you now if you want to follow along. But if you go to map.harveypark.homes, you can go to this interactive Google map that shows you who built what in Harvey Park, including the locations of all the model homes, which are the blue dots, and then also the parade homes, which are all the orange dots through the years. It's a little better on desktop than it is on mobile. If you click on these different boxes on desktop, it actually gives you information that I've entered in there. It does the same on mobile, but it's not very intuitive, so just a heads up on that. And I also shared this shot. This is a shot from the 1954 parade of people going through the Carey Holiday Homes. And I just love this shot because it's pretty much the only good, nice, clear shot that I have of any of the parades, the mid-century parades. The library has in their digital collection a set of photos of the Carey Holiday Homes that are great to look at. So shoot me an email or whatever if you want to take a look at those if you haven't seen any of those before. And just real quick, for those who live in Harvey Park, do you know who built your homes? Is there anybody here who doesn't know who built your home? No? All right. Let's just, so neighbors can get to know each other. Who here lives in a Burns mod? Oh, quite a few of you. Do you all know each other? Have you met? Who lives in a Cliff May home? Nice. How about a Hutchison home? Excellent. Hutchison homes, of course, make up the majority of the neighborhood. I'm surprised it isn't the majority of the room here. Does anybody live in an Ensor home? All right, one Ensor resident. And any that I haven't mentioned, because there are several other builders, but they're much more obscure. We're going to go through a few of them.
C.C. Ford.
C.C. Ford, all right. C.C. Ford unfortunately didn't have any homes in this parade and onward, so I'm not going to talk about him today, unfortunately.
What about Lou Carey?
Yes, Carey. How did I forget the Carey homes? Any Carey Holiday homes? All right, you're all together. Nice. So the 1955 parade. To Denverites and residents of the suburbs, National Home Week has come to mean Parade of Homes Week. For these 8 days, the 11th through the 18th, nearly 100 leading builders put their products on display under the sponsorship seal of the Home Builders Association of Metropolitan Denver. And what's interesting is this is the special section that the Denver Post ran. That's kind of how they did the program, is they just published it in the newspaper. Then you could take that and go to all 85 homes in a week. You only had a week. And what's interesting is they have this nice montage of photos here of various parade homes. Almost all of these are in Harvey Park, so kudos to us. And I'll show you which is which. We'll try to do, I know these photos aren't very clear, but I'll try to do then and now comparisons as we go through here. So here's the parade map. Harvey Park is down here. So you can see a pretty good cluster of homes here. You can see Stapleton Field, Lowry, and then the list of all 85 homes here that you can visit in a week. And so we'll start with, what they did here is in the 1954 parade, they did it by price category. So we were able to start below $10,000 for your new home and work your way up. In this particular year, they did it alphabetically. So we're going to kind of do the ABCs of the parade of homes here, and B is for Burns, so that's where we're going to start. And actually the first home we're going to talk about here at 2627 South Osceola is what we call the Burns Mod. Burns didn't actually give these homes a particular name, so that's just what we call them, for lack of a better term. But this was the parade home, built for approximately $13,525. This has had some modifications done. This bay window is not an original feature, and actually even the garage is not an original feature. And so that home is right here. So if we do a little then and now, you can see this is what the windows originally looked like on this home. Now I have some photos of another Burns mod that I got to take pictures of. That previous one is a 3-bedroom model. This is a 2-bedroom model, so it's a small home under 1,000 square feet. But it's all brick construction, wraparound brick, has this nice window wall. What's interesting is these homes are designed so that they can be built in any configuration on the lot. So some of the homes have their window wall facing the street, while others are mirrored to have their window wall facing the backyard. And the builder put doors on both sides so that however you wanted your home to be oriented, maybe privacy is more of an issue for you and you want your window wall facing your backyard. This particular house has the window wall facing the street. Another feature almost all these have is this clear story window on the top here, similar to the Cliff May homes, what I call a glass gable. Another view of it here, looking into the carport. And then what it looks like from inside the home. And what this glass gable achieves, in addition to bringing in natural light while still allowing you to have privacy, is it really creates a lightness of structure. So this is a very small home. And when you create this illusion where the roof is really actually floating over the house, it makes a small home feel larger and more spacious. And this is looking from the other side. This is the bedroom end of the home, which also has the vaulted ceilings and the glass gable as well. And then an example of a bedroom there with the clear story window above. This is an actual vintage photo of a Burns mod. This is what the original window wall would have looked like. A full height glass from floor to ceiling with a little ventilation window in the middle so that you could let cross ventilation through the house because nobody had air conditioning. This house is on Patton Street. I don't know the exact address offhand. And then this is the back of that same home. So you can see how the home could be flipped so that this could easily be the side of the home facing the street. And this is another example of a design where the home is actually turned 90 degrees on the lot, and instead of doing the glass gable, it actually has a window wall that goes all the way up here. And there was also a tri-level model. An interesting fact that I learned about these tri-levels, talking to one of the neighbors in the Burns mods, is most of the tri-levels, except for one, are all concentrated along Raleigh, and then there's one also behind these on the next street over. There's a name is Equipment. For whatever reason, when these houses were built, Burns could not get these tri-levels to sell. I don't know if they were too big or too expensive or what. So Burns actually held on to these until the 1960s and rented them out to tenants. He finally sold them in the 1960s, and so I talked to a guy, the guy who lives on Quitman. He said he is an original owner, even though he bought his in the 1960s, because he bought it directly from Burns after Burns had rented it out for several years. So I don't know the story why Burns couldn't sell them, but it's interesting that these houses were not owned by individual homeowners until the 1960s.
You said they were on Raleigh, between what and what street?
Between Vassar and Yale.
Okay, so that
The
was
2600 block.
I lived in one of those.
Did you?
Yeah, I lived at 20, well, just this side of the.
26
It was
something.
2664 South Raleigh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Was the
It was
garage-
mine and my ex's house, so I don't know.
Was the garage a part of that originally?
That's a good question.
Mine was a carport.
Yours was a carport?
And probably more open to
They
the
were-
roof line, because I was wondering why there wasn't a clerestory window there. Or if-
Yeah, what's interesting is if you go into the garages of these, there is brick on the inside of the garage, which makes me think it probably was originally a carport. And another example.
Because they all seem to have the garages as you drive.
Yeah, they
around,
do.
yeah.
It must be the way they built them. What's interesting is that they also have a couple of examples where the house was turned on the lot. So there's a couple of examples where you just see the end of the house, and the two-story end of the house is way in the back of the lot. You actually don't even realize it's a tri-level. So I'm still trying to figure out what the history of the Burns mods are. And I think I'm relatively close to figuring out who the architect is. And I believe the architect is the guy who built or designed this house. And I don't know if everybody has seen this house. This house is hiding behind Trinity Lutheran Church on Stewart Street. And I call it the Isaacson House because it was designed by architect Maurice Isaacson, who was actually an employee of Burns, but it's not clear what he did for Burns. Burns built this house, and I believe, because of the similar design details of this house to the actual Burns mods, I believe that Isaacson was the designer of the Burns mod homes. Isaacson lived in this house until then he sold, and he actually moved on to become a developer of major multifamily complexes around town. At first, he worked for a company building huge complexes like Windsor Gardens and whatnot. And then he actually went on to develop a couple of his own projects. One of them is called Morningside Condos, which is over in southeast Denver. And when he built that one, he actually moved from this house into that. So he moved into the complex that he built. And then he also built a second one, and I totally cannot remember the name of it, but it's at I-25 and I-225. And as soon as he was done building that one, he moved from Morningside to that one. So he was actually had so much faith in the projects he was building, he moved into each project that he was developing. I wish more developers did that. So here's an ad that actually, Burns being super efficient, why waste money having a separate Cliff May and Burns mod ad? He did an ad for all of the homes that he had in the parade all at once. So these are the Burns mods, priced from $11,300 to $13,700. And then he also mentions the Cliff May homes, $12,750 to $16,950, which is a nice segue for us to then talk about the Cliff May homes. So this is the original parade home for the Cliff May homes. The owners of this home are actually here with us this morning. And they paid a lot more, I'm sure, than $16,750 for their house. And this one is on the corner of Harvard and Lowell. And it's one of three homes that were in the original model village. So what a lot of the builders did is, even though they officially had one home in the parade, they would have had other models open at the same time. So potentially, there were probably hundreds of houses that you could see during the parade. Again, this one is featured down here. So we can do a little bit of then and now with our really blurry photo, unfortunately. The little tree here was unfortunately taken down a few years ago, before you guys bought the house.
Yeah, I did do that.
Unfortunately. So I had taken and done it before and after previously, where you can see what the tree had become after some 60-some years. Here's again, living in the world of microfiche. This is a photo of the inside of the home, or what little you can make of it. But you can at least see the distinctive cliff bay window wall here that opens into the garden, as the headline says, "Peace resides in home and fenced yard." Peaceful interior intimacy has its complement in this Burns construction residence at 2505. And so who is Cliff May? I'm just going to go real quick through the Cliff May story. It's such a long story that actually I'm going to do a full talk on it for one of these Harvey Park history mornings for whoever is interested. But I'm going to give you kind of the Cliff's Notes. So this is Cliff May right here. He actually lived in California. Even though he is credited for designing the Cliff May homes here in Harvey Park, he was not an architect. He actually didn't even graduate from college. He went to college for business school, got bored, ended up in home building because for whatever reason he had a talent and interest in furniture building, and he offered to build furniture for a local builder for his model homes, to make his model homes more attractive. So he built packages of furniture for model homes, and his furniture was actually causing these homes to sell well. And it got to the point that that home builder decided, well, hey, instead of just designing furniture, why don't you design me a home? And Cliff May actually designed a whole home for him and discovered he had a talent for this. And one thing leads to another, and he actually becomes a developer himself, designing homes. He does have the help of an architect. The one thing about him is that he is a very, very charismatic guy. And he used that charisma to actually get himself into national magazines and became an architect and home builder for the stars in California. So there are many stars, mid-century stars, who live in Cliff May homes. And in fact, the little prefabricated homes here in Harvey Park are only a tiny fraction of his career. Only from about 1950 to 1956, everything else was designing wild homes for the rich and famous. Here's an example of a Cliff May custom home. His homes, the homes that he designed, were like 11,000 square feet, 15,000 square feet. You can see he's got this courtyard in the middle and this rambling floor plan that just goes everywhere and forever. His design philosophy was inspired by the Mexican ranch homes from the days before California was even a state, when the design of the home was really about creating a building around a private outdoor living area. And that really drove his philosophy for how to design a home. Having this outdoor living area was a big part of what he felt a home should have. Here's an example of a Cliff May custom home in Tucson. You can see, even though he's a modernist, he's using very rustic materials in his design. You've got this great wall of glass, and yet all the materials and other design elements are very rustic, and this is very much his style. If you've heard of Robert Mondavi, I don't know if you've been, it's a little winery in California. This gatehouse was designed by Cliff May. So the Robert Mondavi logo is a building designed by Cliff May, and Cliff May actually designed the entire Robert Mondavi winery. So if you've ever visited that, you've visited a Cliff May design. So going back to the house, what Cliff May wanted to do with these prefabs was to take that big custom home around a private outdoor living area and shrink it down and make it affordable for everybody else. And so this is not in Denver, but this is in Family Circle magazine, one of many magazines that his homes appeared in. And this is a Cliff May home in Dallas, exactly the same kind of homes that we have here in Harvey Park. And if we take a closer look here, here's this private outdoor living area that he's trying to create, but on an affordable scale for people. And you notice he uses these glass walls to create a visual connection between indoors and outs to make it feel like even if all the doors are closed and whatnot, you still have that connection to the outdoors. You can also see that his planning, and you really notice this in Harvey Park, because of something that are called minimum setbacks that city zoning laws have. If you look at the streets in Harvey Park, all the houses are in perfect rows down the street. There's almost no variation. They're all right next to each other, except in the Cliff May homes. Cliff May would actually seek variances to the zoning code so that he could set the houses in relation to each other in order to use the house next door to create that outdoor living room feel. Because he couldn't make a house big enough to surround an outdoor living room, the idea was put a fence across the front, use the wall of your neighbor's house, and create that private outdoor living space that he so valued in a home design. Cliff May homes are also unique because they're post and beam, they're prefabricated, and they're modular all at once. And just to give you some of the idea of where Cliff May was going, and builders of the time, they saw their product as something that was more than just a house. They were selling you a way of living. And I think this copy just covers that really well. Built upon a firm foundation of contemporary needs, Cliff May homes achieve their essential livability through the Western ranch informality for which Cliff May is nationally famous. So, it's really fun to live in a Cliff May home. The most modern planning saves more of your time for relaxation and recreation. Here, you and your family are indoors and out of doors. Patio and garden are distinctively blended into your living area. It is truly a home planned to give the whole family a wonderful opportunity to LIVE. Leading home magazines have been quick to recognize this freshness and advanced thinking of Cliff May designs. That's why you see them featured not just once, but again and again in America's best publications. This is an actual Cliff May home in Harvey Park on Osceola, a vintage photo here. Again, we're selling for your dreams of modern design, modern living, modern economy, modern surroundings. Your proudest possession. It's not just a house, it's your proudest possession. It's an exciting adventure in living that's fun. Some more Harvey Park. These are all Harvey Park Cliff May images. These particular images are courtesy of the Biltz family. Phil Biltz here, she is still alive and still living in her Cliff May home. Original owner. And when we say Cliff May homes are prefabricated, they are what are called a panelized construction system. So factory workers actually pre-built all the panels, and those panels were flat packed onto a truck, kind of like flat packing your IKEA furniture. And they were brought out to the site, and the panels were tilted up. And Cliff May bragged that he could put up a house in 24 hours. In one day, as long as you had the foundation ready, you could tilt up all these panels and you could have a roof on a house in 24 hours. It would take a couple more weeks to do all the interior finish and whatnot. But that was the advantage of prefabricated building. And he even had a manual that he would give to builders for how to build the house. So that went step by step, how the panels went together to actually put the house up. This is the original brochure for Harvey Park. There were actually 8 models in the brochure, but one of them wasn't built. These were the 7 models that were offered. And if we look at these floor plans, this is the smallest model, and this one is modestly the model I live in, the smallest model. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. And when we talk about it being modular, the first thing you can notice is that everything is on a 5-foot grid. Everything is on a 5-foot module. And the idea was that, because all these panels had a consistent size, it was kind of like a kit of parts, like using Legos or another kind of construction set where you could create a house of all sorts of different shapes and sizes by using this modular system. And a lot of the models, the 7 models in Harvey Park, were built on modules. So if we take this model and we add a wing to it here, now we have a primary bedroom that's in its own little wing here. We've added a little hallway through what was a bedroom here. And the house is otherwise the exact same thing. We've just added a bedroom wing. We can make that bedroom wing 5 feet longer, and now we have a bathroom in that primary bedroom. Now we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, all built on the same modular system. And just some photos of the Cliff May homes. Again, like the Burns mods, we have these glass gables. We have these distinctive window walls, and part of what makes these so distinctive is that they're what are called style and rail construction. So they're wood, basically wood panels that are put together kind of like an old door, but instead of having wood in the panels, they put glass. And the idea, I think, theoretically behind this is that they had to make these windows, 1, shippable, and 2, easy to install. So these windows are actually what they call face nailed to the structure. So instead of putting the window inside an opening, what they do is they actually put the window just on top of the opening, which makes it really easy to install. Anybody with a hammer and a nail could put these windows up. So there's the house next door, creating that private outdoor living space. That transparency that we were talking about. Private side here, transparent side here, that's 2 sides of the same house. You can see here, this is the model that has the primary bedroom without the bathroom, how it opens directly onto the private outdoor living area too, as well as the living spaces. Another example there. And because I'm clearly obsessed with maps, I have a map of where all the Cliff May homes I've been able to find around the country. Almost 3,000 of them are, and you can go to map.cliffmayprefabs.com if you want to explore where other Cliff May prefabricated homes were built all around the country. The way Cliff May was able to pull this off, he didn't build all these houses. In fact, he didn't even build a lot of the ones in California. What he did is he took this system and he licensed local lumber yards to build the parts and licensed local builders to put the houses up, which is why Burns Construction gets the credit for actually putting the houses up and selling them. And I love this picture because it just shows the transparency of a Cliff May home. Moving on, C is for Carey. Carey Construction, remember in 1954, he was selling these modest homes that are in Brady and Utica. It is time to move up. It's time to appeal to the young executive. Priced, if you're looking for a $20,000 to $25,000 home, but you only want to pay $17,500 to $19,800, consider the Carey Holiday Home executive models. So these models the model home for this is right on the corner of Raleigh and Walcott, so right at the lake. And unfortunately the house doesn't look anything like this. I'll show you what it looks like in a moment. But you can see when he opened this actually in May, so before the Parade of Homes, it says about 5,000 persons Sunday visited the new $18,000 to $20,000 Carey homes for young executives.
None of them old.
No. Although I'll talk about the old executives in a moment. Designed by architects Baum and Polivnik. Norton Polivnik was a major architect in the Denver area, and he designed both the smaller and the executive Carey Holiday homes. The houses offered are 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom models with or without basements. Here's what the house looks like today.
Oh.
Now we know.
20,400. But the location of this house is important because Carey was not just selling Carey Holiday homes out of this house. And here's an interior view of the house, by the way. Modernism gives a fully functional effect. And here's an example of what it should have looked like when it was new. This is a different house. Unfortunately, the brick has been painted on this one, so it doesn't even look this nice anymore.
This original.
Right. Interior photo here showing the glass gable of a similar model. You can see, if you know how like 1950s rambling ranches were built, like really big, what the old executives owned. An old executive's home would be so big that your front door is not where you would want, say, the milkman or the delivery guy showing up to you. You'd have what's called a service entrance. And they did the same thing in these houses. So inside the carport, protected from the elements, is the front door of the home. But this door is the service entrance, which goes into a little mud room adjacent to the kitchen. Unfortunately though, because it's so small and in a neighborhood where everybody just has a front door, I imagine through the years this has caused a tremendous amount of confusion as to which door you're supposed to go to. Another thing Carey fixed with these houses is that anybody who knows the smaller Carey holiday homes, you know it has the smallest kitchen on earth. Well, he totally fixed that in these houses. This house has probably the biggest kitchen you've ever seen in a mid-century home. It's a giant eat-in kitchen, and this one even has its original General Electric steel cabinets, which are incredible. Vaulted ceilings, these windows that go all the way up, lots of natural light, lots of space. And this is dramatically beautiful. When you see the new Carey executive model, we think you'll agree, it's dramatically beautiful. But the one thing, and going back to the old executives, you can barely make it out, but outside this window is a perfectly framed view of Riviera Lake. You can see there. Carey, at the same time as selling the holiday homes out of that model, was also selling lots for Riviera Circle Lake. So that's for the old executives. So he was both trying to sell lots and custom homes for Riviera Circle Lake, and then also selling the holiday homes at the same time. Carey also actually lived on Riviera Circle Lake in this house here. There's a picture of Carey right there. At the time of the parade, he was actually the head of the local Home Builders Association. C is also for Craner. This is one of the more obscure builders. So he only built about a half block of homes with his Craner-built brick contemporaries. And these are on Xavier, just south of Jewel Avenue. And the model that he had featured in the parade was the Challenger, which is, this is a funny little sketch for an ad. But this is what the house actually looked like, $16,975. And again, we actually have it featured on here. It's kind of hard to make out. There's a then and now. Probably the biggest change is this glass here actually was a lot cleaner, I would say, probably when this house was built. Here's a better Craner model in my opinion. I think this one's really nice. And then E is for Ensor. Ensor just continued building the same models he had been building, but changed the locations of the model homes and featured one tri-level and one ranch. Still building with his double masonry construction, plaster interior walls. This is called the Regent model, I believe, and then, well, I was going to show the brochure and I'll be reminded what the model names are. But this was the actual parade, one of the parade homes, $14,150. And we have a photo of that one also featured on the special section. And then this tri-level here, $17,350. And look, all this. Casey Ensor says stop and see the Casey Ensor show homes in Harvey Park before you buy elsewhere. Discover for yourself why this area of certain to rise property values, it's quite a promise, is called Denver's most desirable neighborhood. Look at the Ensor extras of choice. 4 floor plans, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, brick construction, plastered walls, full tile baths, colored bath fixtures, full basement, quality finish throughout. And listen and learn how easily you can own an Ensor home. Nothing down, 30-year GI loans, as well as conventional financing. There's a plan to suit your budget. Here's a picture of the actual original brochure for the Ensor homes.
The Mormon?
And so the Regent, it was the Revere was the ranch that he was featuring in the parade, and the Regent is the tri-level. So that was the big one with the attached garage. It's the only model that offered an attached garage. And one just quick side note, I discovered in the brochure there's a little signature down here that says Wobrin, Wobrin's Westcraft Studios, or Westcott Studios. I discovered that Wobrin illustrated all of these homes for the brochure. He actually was a professional architectural illustrator, and he lived in Harvey Park on Yale Avenue. H is for Hutchison, and in fact, the H in home means Hutchison. This was one of Hutchison's advertising slogans. This is the ad that he ran with the parade. And this was the house that he offered on Sheridan Boulevard. Probably a great place to have a model home. Not the best place to then live in that home for the next. But if you wonder why Hutchison was able to sell so many more homes than everybody else, I mean, so many more. Even before he got to Harvey Park, he'd sold thousands of homes in the Denver area. And then in Harvey Park, he built over 2,000 homes in the neighborhood. But look at that price. That's way lower than all of the other homes that we have seen. And it's really because Hutchison had become a master of economy of scale, of being able to build a good quality, affordable home by building thousands of them. And by not getting too fancy. And there's the picture of the house in the front of the parade of homes section. Doesn't look much different. It's got some solar panels on top now, but about the same. And here's the original brochure for the Hutchison homes. Here's the kind of home you've been looking for. A well-planned home with room to expand, to build additional bedrooms, a recreation room, workshop, dark room. Plumbing is roughed in for a second bath. This full basement house actually gives you double floor space. And that's another crazy thing about the Hutchison homes. For that low price, he was offering basements in all the homes. Most of the builders in the neighborhood offered optional basements, or they didn't offer basements at all. So Hutchison was giving you a ton of space for a low price. And so this model was kind of the middle of the road model. We can take a closer look here. Classic Hutchison floor plan. A lot of people through the years have opened this up to create more flow in their floor plan. And so the Century line of homes, that he called it, had 3 models originally. And so this is kind of the middle of the road model. There was also a, let's see, this is the bigger model with an attached 2-car garage. So 3 bedrooms. One of the bedrooms even had a little tiny half bath here hidden in the bedroom. But otherwise the same floor plan. And then there was also more of a starter home, 2-bedroom home. Still very similar floor plan, and basements were standard. And Hutchison was clearly very proud of the work that he did in Harvey Park. This is actually an ad from 1959. And he featured an aerial photo of Harvey Park here. This is Harvey Park. And he says, from past to present, you can trace the tremendous growth of the metropolitan Denver area. Today's pace of commercial and industrial expansion is a tribute to the pioneering spirit of this generation. The men of the construction industry are carrying out their assignments with new skills, new energy, and new dedication to the task at hand. The shape of today's great Denver reflects the vision and foresight of men who met the challenge and conquered the problems posed by rapidly expanding population. Such a man is Mr. Ted Hutchison, whose continuing faith in the greater Denver area has resulted in the construction of over 5,500 residences in a variety of locations here at the foot of the Rockies. And this is just the beginning. More beautiful communities loom on the Denver housing horizon. And then it notes here, and actually this number is low, because I've counted it, it's more than 2,000. It says 1,721 gracious Southwest Denver homes in Hutchison's Harvey Park. Just one of many, many well-planned communities created by Hutchison Homes.
What year was this?
This is in I think it was 1959.
Can you orient us? Like, was the lake or was the diagram?
So this is Yale Avenue right here.
Oh, okay.
Sabin is right here. This is Lowell.
Do we see Loretto?
Loretto Heights would be like
Off the
over here. And then Sheridan would be right here.
So he's probably not including the Hutchison homes that were built north of there.
Yeah, the older Hutchison homes here in the
Right.
northeast corner of the neighborhood that we talked about last month might not be included in that number. And then S is for Shirley Vale, another one of the obscure builders, but was included in the parade. Shirley Vale didn't have any pictures with their ad. Opening today, Shirley Vale's new look contemporary brick homes. And there is the new look contemporary brick home. It didn't have the bay window originally. This model was called the Camellia. It actually has some cute things in the plan. Little indoor planter right inside the entry. It's actually got a dining room and eat-in kitchen, which would be very unusual for 1955. Kind of a brand new thing. And you can see this one actually did have a basement standard. And this is the crazy brochure. This brochure looks like
It's very 80s.
it might be from the 1980s, right? This is actually the original brochure from 1955. Shirley Vale's new look contemporary homes. Now starting its 21st year of building, it's owned and operated by Alec J. Johnson, one of Denver's most reliable and progressive builders. The know-how acquired over this period assures you of a fine home, reasonably priced, and, in addition, something different from the conventional bungalow type so familiar in Denver. New look contemporaries are really new. Besides their quality construction features and many extras standard in a Shirley Vale home for almost a quarter century, their glistening white marble chipped roofs set them apart and capture the fancy. Here's some of there were 3 different models offered. So we have the Columbine here, the Camellia. One interesting thing he was doing in the Columbine, he had this movable wall here so that you could open this up and make it a second living room, or you could close it up and turn it into a guest room or a den study.
The same accordion full kind of situation.
Yeah, similar to what Carey was trying to do with his movable wall. And I know there's a few of these built, and I'm not sure if any of them still have their original moving wall in them. And another smaller 2-bedroom model here. Again, still with the indoor planter. And they still tried to shoehorn an eat-in kitchen here, but I don't know. That's pretty tight. So moving on beyond 1955, I think they might have decided that 85 homes is a little much. And actually, I haven't figured out what the situation is. I've seen evidence here and there that in 1956 there was some kind of economic downturn in the Denver area. So we go from 85 parade homes to just 25 parade homes for 1956. And only a couple of them are featured in Harvey Park. Hutchison actually recycles the same house, so we aren't even going to look at that one. But Burns introduces a new model that he calls the Capri. And so this one, Burns walks away from the modern designs he's been doing, and he does this very basic home here. A brick ranch with basement, has an eat-in kitchen and dining room. I don't have a floor plan to show, unfortunately. You can see this one has had a bay window added because this is a photo of what it originally looked like. This is the 1956 parade home for Burns. And then Carey introduced the Carey family home, which is something as real estate agents we're not allowed to say anymore, but Carey got away with it back in 1956. Once in a blue moon, a home like this. And there it is, that's the parade home for Carey, the Carey family home. And this is a photo from the time, people gawking at the steel kitchen. There's plenty of storage space in the kitchens of the Carey Construction Company homes in Harvey Park. Double sinks and round-headed work counters made for lighter labor. And it's a good thing this is covered up because it says, in the kitchen for housewives. There's actually a Carey family home for sale right now. It's right on the corner of, I think it's Raleigh and Harvard, I believe. That still has its original steel kitchen in it. So if you want to pick up a house with its original steel kitchen, it's on the market right now. Here's the original brochure for the family home. So this is the one that was actually featured in the parade. So one thing that he does here, instead of doing an eat-in kitchen, he actually creates, we start to see the breakfast nook. If you wondered when the breakfast nook was invented, 1956 is about that year. And then a smaller model here. No breakfast nook in this one. In all of Denver or the suburbs, there's no more delightful, no more promising residential area than beautiful Harvey Park. In the path of progress, yet retaining the quiet dignity of a fine family home area, Harvey Park offers the prospect of years of sustained and growing home values. The promises these home builders love to make. As the map shows, you'll enjoy all those things that make living worthwhile: schools, shopping, transportation, and other conveniences nearby. And then Harvey Park pretty much disappears from the parade of homes until 1960. So this is the map for the 1960 parade, where we actually pop up again. You would have thought Harvey Park would be done by the 1960s, but there was still a little more building to do. And so houses number 10 and 11 were here in Harvey Park. One of the builders was Egan Builders, who was a custom home builder who was working on trying to finish out the lots in the Lake Ridge area. And this was the parade home that he built for 1960. I don't have any information on who designed this home, but I think it's pretty neat. I guess it's because I like mid-century modern, so it's a fun house. And I love this facade, how they angled it off to the side like this. And then Egan also participated in the 61 parade with a decidedly, I thought I did this in a different order. All right. So, and this home was the 1960 parade home for a different company whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, but we'll see it in a moment. And this one's right on Sheridan Boulevard. Fortunately, this builder built a group of relatively large homes along Sheridan, north of the Hutchison homes. And unlike Hutchison, he actually at least gave everybody a curved driveway so that you can drive in, drive out, instead of having to back up and play chicken on Sheridan. But I do like the corner windows that he did on this house. Oh, LM&R was the name of the company. I have no idea what LM&R stands for. This is the 1961 parade home for LM&R. And this is what it looks like today. Pretty much almost exactly the same, except we got a couple of tacked on shutters here that weren't there originally. And then this was the 61 parade home for Egan, decidedly less modern than his 1960 entry.
Oh, those are most.
A beautiful Cape Cod. So what's funny is this house looks like the Burns homes that were built in the 1940s, just east of Harvey Park,
In Sheriff Park.
except that this house is much, much bigger. And I don't know if he mentions the square footage on this one here. No. But it's deceptively bigger. It's a couple thousand square feet at least. At the time of the 61 parade, no, the 60 parade, Egan was the president of the Home Builders Association. He was also, as you can see, trying to get custom homes built in Beaumar, Bear Valley, Thraymore, all the kind of custom communities happening here in the southwest Denver area. And here's a then and now. Pretty much looks exactly the same, except I think they added a couple new lights here on each side of the door. And that takes us to the end of the parade of homes in Harvey Park. Does anybody have any questions or things that you'd like to share? No?
I'm curious in general about how, so this is like modular, right? And the plan that everything is so thought out and the outside of the house becomes like living space, right? But was all of the landscaping and stuff kind of like predetermined? Was it pre-done when they bought the houses? I mean, obviously in these they don't see like the landscaping is
Right.
finished, but it's such an important part of
So in the
the
case of the
experience
Cliff May homes, I think at least the hardscaping was done as
Uh-huh.
part of the plan. If you look at old photos of a lot of the courtyards and things like that, you can see where they poured hardscaping, left an opening, on the module of the home to plant a tree or something like that, to have a planter.
Yeah.
But as far as the actual like planting grass and trees and things like that I'm not sure. I don't know how far they took it.
It seems like there's also some similarities within the neighborhoods, like you see like the same style of fences and colors of paint and stuff that it feels like it could have been
Yeah.
art or intentional at one point in time.
Yeah, well, the original fences,
Chain link.
actually, the original fences on the Cliff May homes were board and batten to match the siding. So it was meant as an extension of the siding on the house.
Were they full enclosures or just partial walls or partial dividers?
They were, well, what's funny is they had like a foot gap underneath them, which I don't know why they did that, but they were like a full privacy fence,
Okay.
which May would have had to get a zoning variance to make that happen, although I've never found the evidence for that.
Is there any left original?
The fences?
Believe it or not, there are a few fences hanging on for dear life.
There's one on the corner on Lowell, right? It's a
An original
kinda-
fence?
Yeah, it's kind of tan. I think that's original.
Oh,
Maybe.
And I don't know what the cross street is though. I think it's towards the end of it going, cause it's pretty beat up. And it's, look, it's the same color as the house. I think it might be,
It's something that I'll have to survey one of these days.
Adam, do you know whether the subdivision filings were custom made for the builders who are going to build there? In other words, you have clusters of Carey and Hutchison and Cliff May. There's about 27 different filings in Harvey Park from north to south. So did the subdividers wait and have the builders design their lots? Or did they file the subdivisions and then the builders came in and
That's a good
built
question.
on them?
It's a question that I've had. I mean, if you look at how the filings are done, they are, the borders of the filings are, sit on where builders, like there isn't like a Carey home sitting in a Burns filing or something like that. But it's hard to tell for a couple of reasons. One is that a lot of the builders, particularly like Burns or whatnot, officially operated, like they would set up a corporation for each set of homes they were building. And so you never know whether the corporation actually connects back to builder or not, or if that corporation had to do with the bank or whatnot. But like, if you look at the filing for the Cliff May homes, it says that the company that did the filing was Cosmopolitan Homes. But I have no idea who Cosmopolitan Homes is, because clearly it was a Burns filing. So, you know, what I don't know is, you know, we know roughly that Axel Nielsen was involved with the master plan of Harvey Park. Was, you know, did he decide, you know, what the parcels were gonna be, or did the builders decide? I have no idea. That's still something worth investigating and trying to figure out.
Because the lots are all different sizes and shapes from filing to filing.
Sure.
They are, to a certain extent.
Have you looked into any of the, builder options? Because I'm in a Hutchison home and I think half the basement was finished at the time of the build.
Really, originally.
I think it's an original, and then the covered patio in the back, I think is original to the house